now 5:30. Let us go ahead and do roll call now, please.
Okay.
I'll convene the meeting.
Vice Mayor Glenn Gunn,
Here.
Councilmember Dave Gaddis,
Present.
Councilmember Jody Shirley,
Here.
Mayor Joseph Manzo,
Here.
Mr. Stanley Sofer,
Here.
Mr. Michael Zabel,
Here.
City Attorney Fred Riley? Nope, okay. And Councilmember Robin Aki and Marv Beam are not present, and and Robin Aki, I said that, and resident Burke Serafian is not present.
Okay, roll call's taken.
Can I ask a question right quick? Do you mind if there's caller 1, 2, and 3. Who are those?
I'm one to call
Don't
in.
count my dog, okay? Don't count my dog.
Thank you, Mike, because mine's going to bark later. I don't know who 1, 2, and 3 are.
I'm one of the callers, I can tell you that.
As the mayor is one.
We'll give him 1.
Mayor's in the front block. Everyone for the block.
Okay, Fred, welcome to the meeting. Thank you. Okay, everybody else I assume is on phone, which is the mayor, Patty. I don't know who the third one is on the phone.
Lynn here.
Oh, it'd be Glenn, okay.
No, Lynn.
Oh, Lynn?
Yeah.
That means there's 4 people.
Minutes, Lynn, so we can figure out which caller you are.
I apologize for not having a guitar in my background.
I just did that for Mike's benefit.
I figured.
It's good to me.
Okay. Well, we've taken roll call. Patty, we need a motion to go ahead and approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second it.
All
Hello.
approved?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. We can now go forward. I believe...
Patty, I'm on.
Thank you, Marv.
Oh, Marv is there? Hey, Marv.
Yep. How you doing, Stan?
So far, so good, actually.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, I believe we need to defer to City Attorney Fred because he presented, as he promised, he provided us a summary of his proposals for the ballot question. Has everyone had a chance to read those?
Yes.
I did. Yes, we did.
Yes. Okay. Fred, did you want to say anything before we open it up for questions?
I'll say just one thing in passing. The section 5.04 of the city charter sets forth the standards that you're supposed to apply to the ballot language, and I tried to track that as closely as I possibly could. And I would say it's a little bit clunky and it's a little bit awkward, but that's what the charter provision provides for, so that's what I use.
Okay. Is there any discussion on that?
Stan, from what I read, it might be clunky, but at least to the point I think people can read it and get it, I hope. And I think that's what we were looking for, correct?
I believe so.
Gun has
I didn't get this until this afternoon, so I haven't had a whole lot of time. My first take through it is there are some questions in my mind that maybe we could wordsmith it and tweak it a little bit, because I do have some concerns that if it stands alone, there will be people scratching their head and saying, I'm not quite sure what this is, I'm just going to vote no for it. So I understand that City Attorney Fred Riley, he fulfilled the obligations of Section 5.04, but I don't think that 5.04 excludes adding some more to it, such as a simplified description of what we're trying to do, in addition to the actual verbiage that Fred Riley has submitted. So my feeling is that we basically accomplished what we set out to do. You've got your prioritized list of amendments that'll fit within the 1 or 2 pages that we set aside for us. But I think at this point, it goes basically back to the council and give them time to review it and decide if they want to wordsmith it and add some description to it later on. So that's my recommendation. Yeah, we've hit all the priorities. I guess we just need to. I don't even recall if the Charter Review Committee had a charter or not, just to make sure we checked all the blocks there. But yeah, I'm just ready to move forward and let the council fine tune this thing.
Joe Manzo, I seem to remember, and I could be mixing states here, but I thought that I know you have to, this will be twice the length because it has to go in Spanish, that I'm certain of, but I thought that the Commissioner of Elections said that we had to do an explanatory paragraph also. But the way it's written is fine. I mean, I certainly understand it, but I thought that they require an explanatory. In New Jersey, I knew that it was absolutely required. I'm not familiar if Florida required it or not. I thought she said to me that there had to be an explanation on it. So do you know if this is complete the way it is, or do we have to put an explanation of what voting yes means on this thing as a separate line or separate sentence?
Go ahead, Fred.
I talked to Vice Mayor Gunn earlier today, and one of the things that we discussed is when this goes back to the City Council, what would typically be done is the City Council would pass a resolution, and the resolution would have, of course, the ballot title, the ballot language, and it would have the entire provision that's being amended, including the strike-throughs, so that in one document there is a complete rendition of what's being changed and why. So that's one thing I'm certain you would do. With respect to the having an explanatory statement on the ballot, Patty had sent me a copy of the previous ballot, which is the last time there was a charter amendment for the City of Bel Air Beach, and as far as that sample that she sent me, there was no explanatory statement. So okay. I can say my approach was to track what the charter language said, which is in 5.04, and I included that at the beginning so you could see what it said.
When Patty gave us a copy of Clearwater's ballot proposals, I don't remember seeing a defining statement for any of the ballot proposals. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I didn't, Stan Martyr, I didn't see anything either. Stan, maybe you and I can remember back when. I don't remember anything in the election period where that last one was done where there was any explanation.
I don't remember any.
No, I don't either.
Okay, then we probably covered it. That's fine. That's good. That's good.
Right. Well, the other thing I like to say, I mean, we can go ahead and put this on our website for the for everybody to look at that's going to vote on it. Correct? That way we could. If that's a proper thing to do.
I would just say that we probably only want to put what is approved by the commissioner of election, not a draft or anything like that. I mean, we could certainly, as we're going along, show all work, and we should. It'll be as part of council meetings and stuff, so that'll all be out there. But whatever's on the website should be an exact mirror, I think, of whatever's on that ballot. We shouldn't change one comma in it.
True. If they have any questions, they can always go to City Hall. You know, if there's going to be a person or persons out there that has a question, I think it can always follow up on this and look into it. You know, I don't think we should worry too much about too many explanations at this point.
Well, actually, this will be submitted to the council, and it should appear in the agenda word for word as to what we're looking at. Is that right or not?
Yes.
I would think yes.
The only thing, yep. And then we could have more detail, so everybody would see exactly. I like the idea of the strike through. That wouldn't be in the regular ballot, but they would see it exactly what's being stricken. We would have our, we have to bring this up to council. Each person has to vote on it, and there'll be a discussion. I mean, it's not going to be, since a lot of us were on the committee, there won't be probably a lot of discussion on it, but there'll be a discussion of exactly what it means. And if any citizens that are reading it have questions, they could ask it then and there. If not, then it'll go. Once we approve it, then I imagine it'll be tweaked between Fred and the commissioner of the elections, and then once they finalize it, that's what goes on the ballot.
Well, in fact, it would be tweaked by the city council, and whatever the city council approves in resolution form is what would appear on the ballot.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes, but I mean, I think it's subject to approval. That's subject to the commissioner's approval.
Yeah, the only thing that I see about this whole question is that there's hundreds, maybe thousands of people in our city that absolutely have no idea what the strategic plan is, because they've never been to a meeting and they've never even taken a look at it. And they're going to see this on the ballot, and there's a good possibility that they're going to just say no because they don't know what it is. That could always happen, Glenn.
I agree with you 100%, and I wasn't through the last ballot session, so the fact that we only had the standalone amendment and no description, to me, doesn't necessarily mean you cannot do that. Maybe at the time we've just chosen not to do that because it was felt the amendment itself was self-explanatory. But my question is as Dave is alluding to, there are people who, I don't care if you put it on the website, I don't care if you put it in the council minutes, I don't care, they're not going to get the message, and you need to put it in front of them. If we're allowed to do that, put it in front of them on the ballot, say, this is why we're doing it, and this is a simplified description. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay, so I've read this thing over and over, and I've kind of wrestled with it myself, and I think that maybe there's another way that you're not adding too many words, but you can actually simplify this even more, which is, if you look at line 3 of the agenda, it says, and city council be amended to require the city to maintain and utilize the strategic plan, or a strategic plan, as a guideline. Not the, but a, because of the fact that right now, according to our charter, it doesn't exist. So this is new. And even though we have already established the strategic plan, it doesn't exist anywhere in our charter. And this is saying that going forward, the city must maintain some sort of a strategic plan. It may very well not be the Glenn Gunn strategic plan in 10 years from now, but it's at least saying that the city must have something in the form of a strategic plan that we follow. So we maintain and utilize it as a guideline. You hit the nail, Marv here. You hit the nail on the head.
Dave. It's a very good idea. Maybe tweak the wording around a little bit so they understand it's nothing new. It's just a guideline to put the city in the right direction.
I like it, Dave. I mean, you know what? It's a strategic plan. The strategic plan could be 2 sentences in a future council, but we've got something, and there has to be some plan. In other words, can't just fly by the seat of your pants, which was the whole idea of getting this strategic plan into place. So that's a good idea.
Glenn, what do you think?
No, I'm on board. I stumbled over the same thing that you saw there, Dave. It was just the grammatical aspects of that paragraph, and later on you address it at the very end of the question as the city's strategic plan. So I got no problem changing that to utilizing a strategic plan as a guideline.
So agreement. It's more of also maintaining. In other words, we have to develop one. You know what I'm saying? If one doesn't exist by the end of once it reaches the election, if it's approved, then no matter what, whether it's yours or somebody else's, or they totally tear it up and start over, it has to be a plan in place.
Correct.
And that's where the maintain comes in.
Okay. So right now, I'm hearing a consensus from the group to go ahead and adopt that verbiage.
I would say a good idea, Marv here. Good idea. Let's adopt it.
Joe, I agree.
I agree.
Mike, you need to make notes of the exact verbiage that was just used.
Yeah, can you please repeat it while I got this? Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try it. Let me see if I can get it twice. All right. So on line 3, be amended to require the city to maintain and utilize a strategic plan as a guideline. And in fact, I believe that you can actually omit the city's strategic plan at the end.
No, I think that should stand. I think he hit both aspects of it. Maintain and utilize a strategic plan, and once that's in place, you periodically review and revise as needed the city's strategic plan. I mean, there's the connection there. That makes sense.
And it's not Glenn's plan, it's the city's plan.
It is the city's plan.
Right.
Right.
Hold up, what I'm doing is transiting the document into Word, so I can just hit it right here. Okay, this is the Fred Riley update. So we're back at hold on.
Have you got that, Mike?
No, I don't. Looking through here, I'm just trying to catch up on the document itself is all.
Would you like for me to
What's that
copy it
section?
right? Add those words? I can do that.
Yeah, just give me a quick, what's the section? Just, I think it was 5.0 or?
.045B.
Ballot questions, the summary that has all the ballot questions, that's really all we're worried about right now.
Okay, that's different.
What's going to appear on the actual ballot and what actually appears in the charter may be slightly different.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I got to pull it up. Oh, boy, we got that sucker in charge. Okay. To require the city. Okay, pull it up again. Proposed amendment, the strategic plan again, correct? We're going to do the updates under, you said, A or B?
I believe, yeah, it would be C and D, I believe.
D
B is what
It's not going to be worded the same way it is in the ballot.
Because I'm looking a little bit differently. I have A, the city council, city staff utilize the city of Bel Air Beach strategic plan as a guideline for evaluating the aspects. Then B was it's going to be reviewed and revised as needed. You're making, there's no E or D, it's A and B. I'm on the memorandum for the Charter Review Committee. Proposed ballot questions.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at, is the ballot questions. The very first one under the charter amendment, and then it's the very first one. Section 2045B.
Okay. The actual writing. Okay, yeah, entitled General Powers. Okay. And looking right at it. There we go. Be amended to require the city to you said utilize and maintain?
Maintain and utilize a strategic plan.
Okay, I'm updating that right now. Okay, plan as a guideline and to right now it's be amended to require the city to maintain and utilize a strategic plan as a guideline and to periodically review and revise as needed the city's strategic plan.
Perfect.
Okay.
Why is there a question mark?
Because it's asking if they want us
It's
to.
a valid question.
Yeah.
So the proposed amendment that I submitted initially, that just gets added into the actual charter itself, right? Under 2.045B, and then we tacked on, I think it was C and D there. Is that right, Mike?
Say again?
Yeah, I remember I submitted the proposed amendment, the verbiage. So we just discussed the actual ballot question, and we're just going to take the proposed verbiage that I submitted to the charter itself, tack that on under 2.045B, and then the second two paragraphs are just added in under B as 3 and 4 or C and D. I don't remember. I don't have everything in front of me. I'm not at home.
Glenn, if I can chime in, I think what we did was we decided that this was the best way to bring that in without tying our hands. It's basically it's saying we're basing the budget. Let's see here. It's basically stating that we have to have a strategic plan without going into great detail. And I actually don't see anything about the budget. I think we completely pulled that out and segregated it.
We did.
Yeah, because there is no C and D. That's what that Stormy looking for. We don't have it.
We dropped it.
We dropped
I agree. We dropped it. Just that's why it's not there.
I think we agreed to have less detail because we were getting too detailed in the charter, which we said that's something that could be, and it should be handled via resolution, not via charter, because you're going to, if for some reason this would be a perfect example. You'd have to have a revised charter might not even be meeting between now and the budget season. So I think we pulled it all in the, it's that's something each council can decide, but the overall guidance of the charter has to be utilized.
Well, if all in agreement, we can go forward with this because this particular section has dominated the last 3 meetings that we've had. So we need to finish this one up so we can go forward and approve or reject the rest of them.
Yes, and I'm going to add to that right quick, Stan. Basically, this one line, this one amendment here is all-encompassing, and it basically steers the council on every decision. So there's no need for any mentions about budget or anything else because this says, boom, you've got a strategic plan, you must follow it. You have to use it as your guide on how you're going to run the city. And I think that's enough said.
Yeah. And again, it's a guide. It doesn't tie you down, but it's a roadmap that you can start to take with.
It's something the city never had, and it's something I'm glad it's in there.
So now that we've put the final verbiage to it, Mike has written it down, are we in consensus to go forward and leave the strategic plan to the council? Just the ballot proposal and strategic plan to the council.
Yes.
Leave it to the council.
Leave it to the council.
Then if we're in consensus, let's go forward. What else do we have on this agenda? I think we've approved everything else. This is the only dangling item.
There's some of these questions. I'm sorry. Some of these questions, I think we have to go through. There's Fred's made a couple of changes here that take out some of the stuff that we discussed, and I have a couple questions on just so I think we have to continue to go through the amendment, charter amendments the way he has them written here. Not to debate them, but just to make sure we have the language right.
Then we need to go to section 1.02, description of corporate boundary. Any questions on that one, or do we go forward?
No, we
charter
decided last week to kick that one.
The next charter amendment I have is 2.02. That's page 2. This was 2.045. That was on page 1, and then the next thing that Fred wrote was charter amendment on 2.02, term limits.
Again, there's a little bit of confusion. I think some people are looking at the charter and the amendments and modifications, and then other people are looking at the ballot questions, which is, I believe, our main concern because we've already eliminated things that we did not want to include in the next election. So does everybody have ballot questions pulled up?
Yes.
That's what I'm looking at.
I'm looking at them both side by side because what Mr. Zabo put together. This is exactly what happened at the last meeting, and our charter amendment should match this pretty close, or at least have a good description of what the intent was. Is that what you're looking at, Mayor?
I agree with that.
Yes, yes, Jody. I'm looking at the charter amendments, and I do have a copy of what we agreed to at the last meeting, the strikeout copy. That's why I've got some questions, but I'm going down the questions, the amendments that Fred wrote, because I thought that's what we've culled it down to. At this point, we know what the final 5 or final 4.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at it's entitled Memorandum Charter Review Committee 3/30/2020.
Wait a minute. You lost me.
Okay, there's 2 documents that were recently set out from Patty about 6 hours ago. There were 2. One was the ballot questions and one was the memorandum. I'm looking at the memorandum right now because it has his notes, the proposed language for the ballot as well. And then the ballot question, that specifically was to look at the page count if 3 was allowed or would be cost prohibitive or okay for cost to publish.
I think the real thing is just
Say again, Glenn?
The thing behind having just a page with just the ballot questions on it was to see if it would stand alone the scrutiny of reading through just the ballot question with no background information, strikeouts, or anything, so that you could see if it's comprehensible.
That's what I thought, Glenn. I agree.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, to work the memorandum, I'm working off the memorandum because it has everything, that has the proposed questions, and it has the detail behind it. Because that's going to be the document that obviously goes forward to you as a city council, because it has both parts.
All right, so I'm hearing, are we approving the proposed ballot question for 2.02?
I have a question on that. I have issues with that, Stan. Yeah.
Please.
Okay, and so in reading, and again, Glenn, I have the exact same approach that Glenn Gunn took. I said, I have the other one, I have the details sitting on my computer here, but I'm just reading the question as if I'm a voter. And I don't understand this one, and I was part of all these meetings, because you know what? It says more than 2 consecutive terms, and I forgot, this is not clear whether you could be mayor for 2 and council member for 2, so thereby getting 4 consecutive terms with 2 different positions, or what I think we meant was any 2, okay? You could be mayor and councilman, or mayor twice, or council member twice, but this isn't clear the way the question is, and so I go back to what we were writing, and I think, and our intent, and I think our intent was just to say, you got 2 and you're out.
You see, I read it as we proposed it. When I look at it as a voting question, I'm looking very specifically at, like, you only have 2 consecutive terms. That's it. Regardless of what you are, if you're a member of the council, you have 2 consecutive terms. You cannot go for a 3rd. You're out of office.
At the first part of that question, whenever it says council members, that's it. That's 2 terms. You're a council member. Even the mayor is a council member, but it's added in there that the mayor is also included. I mean, the mayor is a council member. I don't see any gray area in this at all.
Vice Mayor.
So the voters know what our terms are. They may not know.
Well, basically what you're... I'm sorry, go ahead, Jody.
They may not know what our terms are spelled out in the charter. So, I mean, do we need to give a little clarification? You know, I don't know.
I don't think so.
The thing about this is that theoretically somebody could leave, and due to I'm not sure how our election cycle works versus the leaving of term and the replacement council member taking over. But is it possible at all that somebody would only have to wait 1 year and they could jump right back in?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the intent.
At least to give a break of continuity of a group or individual that is controlling the council. If he takes 1 year off, he can come back and run 2 more terms. But there's a break.
That was the intent.
And I'm fine with that.
Can I pose another question? What happens if you brought in midterm and then you're elected?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I think we want to say more than 2 consecutive 3-year terms. That's what I think we were trying to eliminate. Because it is possible you could come in, let's say, and serve. We just had a guy serve like 6 months. Now, would he be excluded because he serves 6 months and then he gets reelected for 3 years? What we really mean is 2 3-year terms. I think that's what we're shooting for. You know, we don't want to penalize you for serving a small,
to the wrong council, and they changed the terms to 10 years.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to try. I think everybody is thinking we're going to try to hammer this thing out completely today. We just got this afternoon. Like, what my proposal is, why don't we just go through each paragraph, and everybody can kind of brainstorm or rub out some of the things they see wrong with it, and then let's kind of table this whole thing while we sit back and cogitate on it a little bit, and then come back.
I don't want to table it. I'm ready to vote for
I think
it. Done
we
with it.
spent enough time. It's time to
Then my
do
point
the job we have.
Then my point is we've agreed on the priorities. They're all there. This is going to happen again at the council level because not every council member is in this discussion anyway. So there's going to be some questions arise again anyway. So rather than sit here and try to fine tune this thing to perfection, we're just going to go through this drill again. If everybody agrees to these are the priorities, hey, I'm it. Vote for it. Call the question. I'm ready.
I agree.
Consensus.
I mean, I've got some tomatoes on some of these, but I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We've done the detail work. We've revised it. And you're right. We do not have all council members here, and that's going to be the proper one to fine-tune any of this.
Then we're calling the question, is what we have in front of us enough to present to council and complete the task of the Charter Review Committee?
I vote yes.
Yes. Are you talking about that question only? Wait, hang on. Are you talking about that section 2.02, or are you talking about everything?
No, I'm talking about the entire
Everything.
document.
All right, there's an error on 2.045, so we got to talk about that one. It's not what we asked for. It's particularly interesting because it's what I was asking for, which is the presiding officer voting. That seemed to have dropped out on the way that question is cut here. So I don't know what happened, Fred, but that sentence that says the presiding officer shall vote on matters as a regular member of council but shall not move or second a motion, that whole thing got dropped out. We spent an awful lot of time working on that. I don't know why that got dropped. We didn't cut it.
I know. The answer is I made a mistake.
Okay. I thought that might have been the case. I just want to get that back in. Other than that, we're good.
I missed that one. My apologies.
Okay.
Can we correct that now?
Yeah, that's what it's going back to. So what is the input there? 2.045, we're talking para A? Where you deleted.
I'll defer to you because it's two separate ideas. There's two separate changes there. We use Robert's Rules of Order as a guide. That's part one of the change. Part two is we make the change. We remove mayor and we make it presiding officer so that we can preserve a pass the gavel situation. So I don't know if you have to do that as two separate pieces or if you can make it all in one question. God bless you.
One way of making it one single question is to use paren 1 and paren 2 so that it's a two-part statement.
Okay, now what about we made correction above this, specifically in the charter itself. How would you want to go addressing that? We put mayor back in.
Presiding officer.
The presiding officer is what we agreed.
That's the title of the article. That's the title of the section. That is what.
Okay, then we'll change presiding officer shall vote on matters as a regular member.
Joe, are you happy with that change?
I'm sorry, I was trying to read it again. Would you say it again? How you change that, Fred?
Okay. So 2045A has what you want in it where it says presiding officer, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, what you're asking for is to change the proposed ballot question to include that.
Yes.
Fred, if you could give us the verbiage that you suggest so Mike can note of that?
Just a minute.
By the way, Fred, I have track changes engaged on the Word document, so when I send it back, you'll see the notes and the updates.
Here's one way you could do it. Is the third line that it would say shall be amended to 1, require all council members to be council meetings to be conducted using Robert's Rules of Order as a guideline, comma, and 2, including the presiding officer in quotes instead of the mayor.
That does it.
Although that's not very descriptive. That tells what you're doing, but it's one of those things that's out there, and somebody new to this will not understand what you're even talking about, but that's an accurate way of doing it.
I think that to the point that was made earlier, I think it was by the vice mayor or by Dave, I'm not sure whom, but somebody said there's nothing stopping us maybe from putting an explanation, and I think that's something council can mull over. I agree. Nobody's going to know what we're talking about. Nobody knows what Robert's Rules of Order is unless you are a regular at the meetings or you're actually on council. So we probably have to explain this a little bit, or else people they're just going to be picking yes or no. They're not going to know why this is important.
This is Marv here. What if we put presiding officer parenthesis mayor? Would that work?
That gets us back. That gets us right back to where we were. that stops the mayor from passing the gavel. Yeah.
Well, meaning that both of those are the same designation.
Oh no, because once you say we've been through this. Once you say mayor, there's no way any mayor can ever bring a motion. And in most cities, when you don't have a strong mayor can bring a motion, but they have to pass the gavel. The idea is not to let them run the meeting on their own motion. So that's pass the gavel. But the way it is now, you can't do that because it says mayor, and that's it. I'm always the mayor, even if I pass the gavel. That's the problem. All right. I won't be the mayor next time or next time after that, but sooner or later, somebody else will be a mayor. But the mayor has to be able to pass the gavel.
Fred, again, this is going back down to the actual article, proposed ballot question. You said you had the update in there. We got the charter entitled General Powers and Duties of the Mayor and City Council be amended to require all council meetings to be conducted using Robert Rules of Order as a guideline. And then, was it going to be left at that, or you thought you were going to insert the section about mayor, vice presiding officer?
It should say the presiding officer shall vote on all matters as a regular member of council that shall not move or second the motion. By saying presiding officer, it allows for that little trick that most cities use where the mayor can pass the gavel to the vice mayor and then bring a motion but not control the debate. That's the key to that.
The charter does read that right now. How is that?
It says mayor.
No, it's the presiding officer shall vote on matters as a regular member of council, but shall not move or second a motion. No, that's in the 3/25/20, 11:16 a.m. update by Fred. I was questioning the proposed ballot question. Do we have to have that in there?
If it's a charter change, we do.
It's a charter change.
Do we draw that out as a second ballot question?
I don't think that's necessary. I believe we should be able to use an unless statement unless the mayor passes, relinquishes authority over the meeting to someone else. You know what I'm saying? There should be some way that, the mayor is not allowed to make a motion except for when, and you can include this all in one statement.
That'd be a second ballot question. Would title it be amended to state presiding officer, vice mayor shall vote on matters as a regular member of council? Almost paraphrasing that sentence.
You can make it a second ballot question, but what I was trying to do was group things so that you're not having 10 questions or 7 questions. You're having as few as possible. It's up to you. The object is clarity and making it easy for people to understand what choice they're making. I will tell you again, not to get into the overarching discussion again, but if somebody doesn't do a little homework, it is very difficult for them to know what they're voting on, and it doesn't matter whether it's this charter or it's a amendment to the Florida Constitution. The concepts are the same. You really need to do a little homework, and I will readily admit most citizens won't do any homework. But it's a difficult chicken or egg type situation.
If you use Robert's rules, I was going to say, if you use Robert's rules as a guideline, I'm not even sure you need to make the statement about presiding officer and passing the gavel and everything. What you do is you just strike out the portion. You use Robert's Rules of Order as a guideline, and you strike out the portion saying the mayor can't make a motion. And that covers all the bases, because Robert's Rules says you can use, there's some provisions to use a more relaxed form of Robert's Rules for small committees.
Absolutely correct, Glenn. I like that. That's even better. You don't have to get into this pass the gavel, which no one can understand unless they were on a council before. Because you can make that, and that becomes then an ordinance change if you want to just do that. It works out fine, and that's fine. Yeah, just remove it.
That statement was put in there specifically to prevent a mayor from completely controlling the meeting. In other words, steering the direction of the meeting. As a chair, I understand the reason for having a chair, but on the other hand, if the chair is also making motions constantly, and that's the reason why this was put in here, I understand, Joe, I understand why you would want it to where you could make a motion provided that you pass the gavel. But I am agreeing with Fred that the only way you're going to be able to get this in here where it makes sense would be to have a second question on the ballot pertaining to this.
Or like Glenn says, you strike it. Roberts gives you, again, Roberts is built for for the Speaker of the House of Representatives, who doesn't typically making motions, but they're utilizing, they work under a different set of rules. They can, however, have their friends make a motion.
Since the mayor is the one who is conducting the meeting and is actually loosely adhering to Robert's Rules of Order, I'll just pick on you. If you decide that, anybody can make a motion, especially me, and you decide to absolutely hijack the meeting, well, basically you could make motions all night. That's why it was put in there. It's because basically the person steering the meeting should not be able to make motions.
Right, but it was poorly. I got it, okay. But first off, in our city, you have a second, okay. So I could make a motion to dig for oil on Gulf Boulevard, and somebody else has to at least come along with it, or we never get. And again, this isn't me. This is your next three mayors. So it doesn't get to first base on anybody's motion unless somebody seconds it. So, but what it does is it cuts out the mayor who is probably spending more time than generally anybody else in terms of going to outside meetings and getting all kinds of stuff that they're exposed to that some people, just because they're not privy to some of this stuff, don't get to see. The mayor has the weakest position, not the strong. It doesn't have to be the strongest, but they've got the weakest position. They can make any motion. And that's,
Can I propose something? Just kind of going with what Glenn said is, you strike that, but shall not move or second a motion, then say, strike that sentence, or maybe you leave it there and say, unless mayor passes the gavel. I mean, just spell it out right there. When is it?
What I was looking for was something that was an exception in that statement, not a strike it. And there needs to be clear definition. Otherwise, anyone who is responsible for the chair can literally hijack any meeting.
But I think one provision, if you do that, which is not a problem, it should also include the term that once the mayor passes the gavel, he cannot retain that gavel for the rest of the meeting.
For the rest of the motion.
In other words, the purpose being, once he decides to step away as mayor, he steps away for the rest of the meeting.
No, that's
Otherwise,
not the guidelines, Robert Rules.
That's not what we discussed either, because then there can be gamesmanship as to where a question is positioned. Whether you lose the rest of the meeting, it's like, that's not what we talked about. I mean, I don't think you pass it for the questions till the end of the vote, but then you get it back. You're not relinquishing the whole meeting. I mean, that would be a strategic thing that you have to decide, because who knows what else is coming up in the meeting. I mean, I don't know about that.
The whole point is to make sure that whoever is making a motion is not also the bouncer of the meeting. And
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with
what
that.
we're trying to prevent.
Yeah. So if you want to put past the gavel, that's fine, but I don't think you give it up. I mean, I don't know about other mayors. I wouldn't give it up for the night. There may be other stuff that you absolutely do not want to do that for. You shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to relinquish the meeting just because you want to bring a motion. And I mean, I think it's detrimental sometimes. But I'm with Dave. It's not. You don't want one person. You should not be controlling it. If it's your motion, you need to let someone else control.
Can I ask a question? If the mayor wants to pass the gavel and no one wants to take it, what happens?
The only caveat in the protocol is if somebody wants to speak to the motion, they're not supposed to accept the gavel. And the protocol is the presiding officer passes the gavel. Once that motion is cleared and they move on to new business, the gavel typically goes back. These are all great discussions, but again, do we really need to discuss them? They're going to probably come up again when this thing goes to the council, or do we just agree that the amendments that we see on this single page those are the big items we want to move forward on?
What I'm trying to do is conclude the Charter Review Committee, and we're getting bogged down in details we should have resolved a long time ago. Very simply, any item in here is going to be brought up to council, and you could amend the entire Charter Review Committee at council level.
That's correct. That's correct.
I just the only point in raising this was at least get the questions to council the way we agreed on them, and this was missing that piece. So if we want to just add it in the way it was written and then council can debate it, that's fine. I actually like the way Dave's thing is, but we're going to have to say what pass the gavel means because nobody's going to know that, So.
Well, right now it's broken into two sentences, and honestly, if you completely strip the second sentence and you included your intentions in the first sentence, then it's one item to vote on, which is basically shall conduct all meetings using Robert's Rules of Order as a guideline. Let's see, ordinance pertaining to the conduct of the council meetings, somewhere in there you state that, you can't make a motion without relinquishing the chair for this, to make a motion.
And may just continue the sentence, comma, and may not bring a motion without, whatever you want to call it, temporarily relinquishing the chair for the question or whatever, something to that effect. Fred could, fine tune.
It's a very complex sentence, but it serves its purpose.
I think that's where what Glenn was saying, put an explanatory, and we can work on that in council. Finally get it.
I'll go along with that. Brett?
So do you want this to be a two-part amendment, or do you want to make it two different amendments and each amendment addresses one part?
No, I think what we're after is one ballot question within, and having two parts within it.
Okay. The way Dave just said it, I thought that was really, it's a long thing. We might have to put an explanation, but it was one sentence, and it's clear to us, and we'll put an explanation and make it clear to anybody else. I like that. It was one sentence, and it was relatively clean.
Okay, to be clear though, the charter itself is not changing, and we have the correct language there. It's the ballot question.
The charter will be changing.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's going to change slightly.
Okay, so what I got here, I'll start right away since I got it up. The mayor shall be the presiding officer of the city council and conduct all meetings using Robert's Rule of Order as a guideline or any ordinance pertaining to the conduct of council meetings. Now you wanted to go to a comma and say the presiding officer cannot make a motion without relinquishing the chair for the question?
The mayor. The mayor cannot without...
the mayor.
Yes. Cannot make a motion without relinquishing the chair.
For the duration of the question. For that motion. Yeah, for the duration of the question, or for the duration of motion.
Okay, motion.
And it's a uber complex sentence, but
We're removing the presiding officer shall vote on matters as a regular matter. Shall not move or second the motion? Moving that. Okay, let me read that to you. Double check on the sucker. Okay.
Are we done?
Hold on. Hey, Mayor. The mayor shall be the presiding officer of the city council and shall conduct all meetings using Robert's Rules of Order as a guideline or any ordinance pertaining to the conduct of council meetings. Comma. The mayor cannot make a motion without relinquishing the chair for the duration of the motion.
Sounds good.
Brad,
What happens
taking your...
What happens to the rest of that paragraph?
That's removed.
But it says that he shall vote on matters as a regular member of council. So we're eliminating that. You can't take that sentence out, can you?
No, I cannot.
Okay. No, I'm
Fred?
The comma should be at the end of that sentence rather than before.
Okay, I'll make a suggested second sentence. It's the mayor shall vote on matters as a regular member of council, comma, and the mayor cannot make a motion without relinquishing the chair for the duration of the motion.
One last thing, do we want to say, it never was a discussion, and to me it's unimportant. I don't think the mayor should be seconding motions. Do we want to just leave that piece in there too, say, and the mayor shall not second any motion? That doesn't, there's no relinquishing the chair for that. I don't think the mayor should be seconding motions. That's the council.
Isn't that part of a motion?
Really to bring the motion, that was the concern.
okay. how about this? We'll start right in with that last sentence. The mayor shall vote on matters as a regular member of council and cannot make a motion without relinquishing the chair for the duration of the motion. If you wanted to, furthermore, I'll put that furthermore. The mayor shall not move or second the motion. I mean, that's probably going to be changed. I just,
Second the motion.
Second the motion, not the move.
Correct.
Strike the move.
Correct.
okay, furthermore, the mayor. Okay, I have the mayor shall vote on matters as a regular member of council and cannot make a motion without relinquishing the chair for the duration of the motion, comma. Furthermore, comma, the mayor cannot second a motion.
Correct.
Is that correct, or should it be cannot make a motion or second a motion without relinquishing the chair?
We weren't trying to get the mayor to second motions. This was just about making the motion. So this gives the mayor the opportunity to relinquish the chair, make a motion. But in terms of seconding, that's the purview, I think, of the council. But I've always seen it that way.
Okay. So that's what I have in the charter. That's the update to section 2.045, mayor. Okay, Stan, up to you now.
Then I need to call the question after you have amended the ballot question. The way that it's been amended, is everybody in agreement with that so we can present it to council?
Yes.
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 Right now, this is Mike being secretary. The only thing I've changed right now is I updated para A in the charter. I have not updated the proposed ballot question.
I think Fred will do that. Fred will do that. So long as he understands what you've written.
Okay, just want to make sure.
We have consensus then, we go forward.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
On to the
Question, do you want that to be two different ballot questions or just one?
one.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So now we're off to the next proposed ballot question refers to 2.06. Article 2.06. This regards the unexcused absences. We added the term unexcused absence for 4 regular meetings. Is there any question about that? Or I think we're pretty much in agreement on that one. Am I correct?
Looks fine to
Any
me.
objection?
Good.
Hearing no objections, we have consensus. Next, we go to the proposed ballot question. Now, we're now at 4.03, am I correct?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes.
This is the deletion of the treasurer.
Yes.
4.03.
You might need to check the spelling for forfeitures.
I didn't hear you, Glenn.
Yeah, you might want to check spell check forfeitures in that 2.06.
2.06.
You're looking at just the ballot question page.
And you want to add S to forfeitures?
That was the one where we added the term an unexcused absence, correct?
That's correct. Just spell check forfeitures.
I'm lost as to where you are.
He's on page 5.
I did correct.
Forfeiture is spelled correctly, I believe.
That's correct, Glenn.
I
I'm looking at the page with the ballot questions. That's all I'm looking.
Page
FORFEITURE, that's forfeiture. Double check
Showing
it.
FORE.
No, he's correct. That's a misspelling.
Oh, there it is. Yep. Yeah, it's FOR. That E's got to go.
I think it's in a couple places. You may want to take a look.
That's a good call, Glenn.
That's the English spelling, Glenn. We have an English attorney. That's the English spelling.
I'll never live us down on law review.
I never could understand English anyway.
Yeah. Fred, what you're supposed to say is you put that in purpose to see if we notice.
No, I like hey, that's the English spelling of it. I appreciate that one.
Two nations separated by a common language.
That's true. Okay. We have consensus on that one after we fix the word forfeiture.
Okay, I put up, you did fine.
Yes.
Okay. Then we have consensus on that. We're driving Patty nuts, you know that. Okay, we're on to the last one. The last proposed ballot question, which is 4.02. Appointment and removal be amended to delete references to the city treasurer as being appointed or removed by the council. That's supposed to be one ballot question to cover wherever there is the term city treasurer, correct?
Correct. Not to cover wherever it is, it's to cover only those two sections. The other place where it's mentioned is an appropriate thing that really is not impacted by the change you're trying to make.
Okay.
I had a thought that maybe after that first line where you say position, if you inserted and duties, position and duties, you'll cover the other areas because doesn't it talk about responsibilities and description of duties, that sort of thing?
Mike, I can't hear you.
No, I don't recall any time we've ever inserted or deleted any term of, for duties. So just strip it.
I would suggest it. I'm looking at the ballot questions page. I'm just looking at the verbiage in that last charter amendment, and I'm just wondering if you insert and duties after position, if it kind of directs you to all those other places in the existing charter that describe the duties and responsibilities that have been reorganized within the new reorganized city staff.
The problem with this is anywhere where the city treasurer is mentioned may not necessarily be in 402 and 403. So you're going to have to amend all of that anywhere where city treasurer appears.
I thought we were going to try to incorporate it all into one amendment.
Correct. But whenever we added, we detailed specifically which sections it was mentioned, that all of a sudden does not fully encompass. I'm pretty sure it's more than just those two sections.
You are correct. I think there's like 4 or 5 sections.
Right.
It should be in section 4.01, 4.02, 4.03, and 4.05. Those were the references.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to keep it vague. Let's take the actual.
Dave, go ahead.
Are we allowed to do a section 4 period and then spell out what we're trying to do? rather than pointing out a specific section 4.02, 4.03. It should just be all-encompassing section 4.
That's what we were hoping for initially.
Fred?
I wouldn't suggest you do it that way. I mean, I made the changes when we met before based on what you had marked as priority 1A. So the reason, and I'm only telling you this so I understand why I didn't change it. In section 4.01, that was not marked as 1A, so I didn't change it.
Well, the objective here is to remove the term city treasurer from the entire charter. And we were hoping to be able to do that with one ballot question. You're saying we cannot do that?
No, I'm saying the more complicated you make it, the more likely it is somebody can assert that you're covering, you're not limiting this to one topic. Okay? My safe answer is do a different ballot question for each section you're changing. So if you're going to change sections 4.01, 4.02, and 4.03, the safe answer is do a different ballot question for each individual section.
But that accomplishes nothing if we eliminate the city treasurer in one part and leave the city treasurer in another section.
Okay? If you want to combine them all into one question, you can do that, although I'm not anywhere near as comfortable doing it that way as having individual questions. I know the individual questions is going to be a valid exercise of power. The combining things, the more you combine, I think the more arguments somebody can have that you're not segregating out questions, even though they're all connected to the same thing.
You know, what happens to the number of ballot questions that we're trying to come up with? We just added, 4 more ballot questions to our charter review.
What's wrong with just leaving the first line in there? You've eliminated and outsourced the position and duties of the treasurer. Why not just remove all references to the city treasurer from section 4?
Or if you're not comfortable with that, then go ahead, list them out, all references to city treasurer in sections 4.01, 4.02, etc.
Are deleted.
Right.
Reword it to make it easy.
Say again?
You can do that if you choose to, but I'm just telling you in advance, it's not as sound a way of doing it as if you're doing individual ballot questions. And you know, let's be very frank about it. The place where you have a vulnerability is somebody coming back and challenging that you didn't do the ballot process right. And you know, is that likely to happen? My guess is it's likely not to happen. But you're trying to do it in a sound way completely, and you're going to get it done and have the amendment be addressed, and you'll get a final answer when it goes to the citizens.
Well, my suggestion right now is that we depend heavily on Fred's advice, and I would not want to go around him. He has a little bit more knowledge than I do on this subject, and if he feels that we have to have individual ballot questions regarding the city treasurer, then so be it. I hate the idea. We'd like to save money and not have more ballot questions, but we do need to do this correctly and present it to the council correctly.
Well, all you can look at it as we're whittling away at a problem, and if we take these two out, this is 02 and 03. That's a start. We all know that we don't have a city treasurer anymore, and the next go around, we do another one and take out another chunk of it until all references are actually gone, provided that the next time we decide to present a charter amendment, that we still don't want a permanently employed city treasurer.
The only issue I have with that is Fred made the mention that there could be an objection by somebody because we didn't do the ballot question correctly. So if we don't present all 4 ballot questions regarding the city treasurer, are we abrogating our duties in that area? Fred?
Here's what I'd suggest you do with this one. And I have the benefit of knowing what was done, I don't know, 2 months ago, and the council members will probably remember this. I wrote a legal opinion that related to whether the council could have the treasurer be a contract employee. And I answer that in the affirmative. Yes, you could. I gave all the basis for doing it, and that's ultimately what the council did in affirming the guy that had been the interim treasurer. So you have in place the right person for that position. What I would suggest you do is simply shift the ballot questions related to the city treasurer to that will be next year's starting 3 questions or starting 4 questions. Have them each be a separate, distinct ballot question, and next year you address that. So this year you, I think, would end up with 4 or 5 questions. Next year you have at least 3, and over the next 2 years you implement the changes that you all have discussed.
Mayor,
you're already addressing multiple sections in that question. We talked about 402 and 403. What about 401? Where did we take care of eliminating him from section 4.01?
This is my problem. It was admin. I definitely made a mistake here. I reviewed the last charter we submitted the attorney. We had section 4.01. We said updated, but it did not have a priority. So I just put that back into the charter review committee document about section 4.01 designation. The city manager and city clerk striking and city treasurer are designated as charter officers. So my apologies to Fred on that.
No problem.
Fred, why can't we... Go ahead.
So how does the ballot question actually read then? Right now it talks about section 4.02 and 4.03 based on just that one page I'm looking at. Should that be 4.0? I mean, you're already addressing multiple sections of section 4 in it, and it's really a matter of risk management. I mean, I take what Fred's saying under advisement, and he's also saying it's not likely to happen, so why not just do it?
One question, see what happens if you are.
My feeling is it should refer firstly to section 4.01, removing him as a designated charter officer, and then because we've reorganized, delete all references to the city treasurer because those duties and positions have been outsourced.
Here's what I'm thinking, okay? And I cannot agree with you in terms of leaving this. This issue has raised its head by a handful of people who have brought it up a couple of times saying, what about the charter position of treasurer? This has come up a couple times in discussions in council meeting by outside individuals, former elected officials here. I think we have to shut it off. And I think the way to do it maybe, I know and I agree with you that 4 questions would be the right and best practices, okay? But an alternative would be to say, just like you have it worded, with the elimination of the treasurer's position due to the outsourcing, however you want to word it, shall all references to treasurer in paragraphs 4.01, 4.02, 4.03, 4.05 be deleted. You put it all in one question, it eliminates it. I don't think it's that controversial of a thing. Like it's not like the fire tax where people are going to look to bring a court challenge probably on it. We do run a little bit of risk management, to Dave's point. Let's play that risk if we have to. But this eliminates all of them. I think you got to take them all out because there are people going, what about the treasurer? What about the treasurer? What about the treasurer? It's like there is no treasurer anymore.
Right. Do you mind if I'm going to add something right quick? Again, if you even wanted to make it shorter, you could say the treasurer in Article 4. Article 4 covers everything, and you've eliminated like 30 words by doing that.
Can I suggest something? I think number one is the first question needs to be put out is, would be a question of taking the position out of a charter position. So in other words, you agree to remove the treasurer as a charter position. That's number one. So once we get rid of the treasurer as a charter position, then we may need two questions. Then the second one be all-encompassing. If the first question's vote is yes, then all these references to treasurer is removed. And I don't know if you could do that on one ballot, but I think the first question has to be, are voters agreeable in removing that treasurer as a charter position? Which we've done, I know, Fred, as a council.
I'm just laughing because that the way you set it up, if they voted to in the affirmative to remove them as a charter officer, but then they voted no on the other ones, you'd be in a crazy situation. The way to do it, there's two ways to do it. One, segregate each ballot question for a specific section, or two, the second way of doing it is to combine them all, and you could start by saying removing the treasurer as a charter officer and removing references in the following provisions to the treasurer.
I think that would be the way to do it personally.
Yes, you could do it that way.
And I agree. The only problem with that is that we've already removed the treasurer.
Yeah, I'm in line with Dave's perspective on this. Hey, leave that first line in there. Since the city council has outsourced the position of the city treasurer, eliminate all references to city treasurer in section 4.
Article 4. That's it.
And if it doesn't fly, we'll drop back.
We'll hire a treasurer back. That's what you want.
Okay, you could do it that way too.
We're almost to the end of this meeting. I think we're close.
Does Lynn Reeves have any perspective on that description of treasurer? I mean, we've actually designated Andy as the city treasurer. If we remove all references in the charter to the treasurer, does that impact anything on how you've reorganized and assigned the duties to Andy?
No, not at all. He's a contract employee now.
Where's Lynn?
I guess I want Lynn's perspective on that.
I think I heard him snoring.
I heard that too. I was ignoring it. I didn't want to say anything, Jody.
You guys are all nuts.
I'm glad y'all are making me laugh.
All right, let's get back to suggestion has been made that we take this ballot question as Article 4 in toto, correct? And remove the reference of city treasurer. Do we have to say by contract employee? Because I don't think that's necessary. I think you just need to remove the city treasurer. The council can hire any employee they wish.
That's right. They're just no longer a charter member.
That's all we're trying to do.
You need Lynn Reed's perspective on this, because if you drop down to section 4.05, it talks about a city treasurer powers and duties. Now, under the reorganization and the outsourcing, that's been delegated to Andy, and as I recall, there's something we've done to designate him as our city treasurer, so we need to be careful on that point, because we may get rid of something that impacts our interaction with how we're dealing with the outsourced duties of city treasurer. I'm fundamentally in agreement with just striking all references out of Section 4, but we may need to be really careful and get some perspective on Section 4.05.
I think we talked about that. That becomes a code issue. You know, that's just written in our code of how we handle the employee.
It's in your strategic plan.
I don't think so.
Oh, it better be.
We can call them a numbers person.
That's for the new council, right? When it gets periodically reviewed and revised.
I hate to say it, folks. I'm looking at 4.05 here, and Glenn's right. Most of 4.05 we want to keep. It's the last sentence of 4.05, which says, and I'll quote it exactly off of our existing charter. It says, first off, it gives the first three sentences give all the responsibilities of treasurer, all of which is continued. We just outsourced it. The last sentence is what has to go, I believe, and it says a charter officer, as defined in section 4.01 of this charter, shall, with at least one designated elected official, sign all checks and drafts payable by the city. That's really all I think we're looking to change in 4.05. The rest of it, like, he's the chief financial officer, he's responsible for the receipt and payment of city funds, he'll maintain all financial records, that stuff is all good, you know?
Yeah, 4.05 was reserved. We don't have a statement in 4.05.
But if he's no longer a charter officer, then none of those duties should be spelled out in the charter. Those become a contract agreement. They're part of our code. It doesn't remain in the charter.
Then you eliminate all of 4.05. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah, we don't have a 4.05.
So actually, Fred, that would say, so we delete the reference in 4.0, so we're deleting reference in 4.01, reference in 4.02, reference in 4.03, because that's really dealing with hiring, firing, and then all of 4.05 is gone if we adopt what Jody just said, and I think that's correct.
Well, and again, all references in Article 4 would automatically kill 405 because right off the bat, the title is called City Treasurer. Done. It's gone.
Right. It's gone. The whole thing's gone. Okay.
Well, that's why I'm cautioning you, is we're calling Andy our city treasurer right now. So the last sentence still applies to 4.05. I'm just cautioning you about, this unexpected consequences. We're going to blanket wipe out all the city treasurer, and then what's the linkage with our outsourced guy now? I just want to make sure everything's in alignment before we just totally whack off the head of this thing.
Well, what if we followed this, or before this, we created an ordinance that deals with this, and that way, whenever we kill this from the charter, now we have an ordinance in place that covers this.
At this point, I think we're speculating without the input of Lynn Reeves.
I think we should come up with a decision we need to end this now so we can present it to council. So let's come up with a reasonable plan. I thought Lynn was in on this meeting. I believe he was in the beginning.
Yeah, he looks like
Can we do this and ask him to his opinion on this change? Because truthfully, once you eliminate city treasurer as a position, you're probably going to have to change this gentleman's title after the charter.
Well, this is,
It's all
again,
going to
that's
come up again at the council level.
right. I agree. Let's kill it completely, and then we'll work on it in the council, because we do not want city treasurer to be a charter officer, and this Article 4 specifically deals only with charter officers. So, city treasurer doesn't even belong in this Section 405. That should not even exist anymore.
That's correct. And Lynn will have an opportunity to comment when this gets to council.
Yeah.
He's always, he's like a council member. He can comment on anything.
Fred, go ahead. That's perfect.
Section 405 would become reserved because 406 exists.
4.06 is city attorney. City attorney's not a charter officer, but his duties are spelled out there. What I would let me make a new suggestion. You break this into two ballot questions. One ballot question relates to sections 4.01, 4.02, 4.03, and 4.04, and you in that ballot question strike all references to the city treasurer. You leave section 4.05, which is the powers and duties, except you strike the language which is the reference to 4.01. So you still are basically keeping the duties and powers of the treasurer, which is parallel with you having the city attorney powers spelled out in the same article. That to me would be consistent, and that way you limiting it to two ballot questions, and you're effectively achieving what you were trying to achieve. The other way is doing what Dave was advocating, which is you take 4.05 out of the article as well, and instead you simply, the council passes an ordinance that states that those are the powers and duties of the city treasurer, and that's part of your code. You could do it that way too.
Fred, on your references, it's 4.01, it's 4.02, it's 4.03. You said 4.04. That is not, I don't believe, correct. That's the city clerk, and that doesn't change. There's no reference to
yes, there is.
There is?
Yes, sir.
No, 4.04 is city clerk, powers and duties.
4.04 is city clerk. It doesn't have anything about the financial person.
Yeah, 4.05 was the financial person. That's reserved.
It has a reference to city treasurer in the last sentence. The sentence. Let me.
Oh yeah, it does. Yep.
Okay. Well, the sentence reads: the city clerk shall prepare an annual budget for the operation of the office of the city clerk, city treasurer, and the city council, and so shall submit the budget, on and on. So you take that reference out as well.
Correct. Okay.
So we now have two ballot questions that we can present to council. One removing 401, 402, 403, 404. And then the second ballot question in this particular case is to remove the reference of 4.01 in section 4.05. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Mike? do you have that?
Just going back through this, we got 401, 402, 403. Can you do your wording again?
401, 02, 03, and 04 must be removed.
Okay.
The terminology of treasurer.
Reference to treasurer, not the entire, not the
No,
entire
reference to, yeah, I'm sorry.
Reference to the treasurer.
And 4.05, you need to remove the term in that section 4.01.
Okay, let's go back over this.
Wait a minute. I don't think you want to do that. That's still talking about checks have to be signed by one of our charter officers. So, like, Lynn has to sign one, or yeah.
We need to get Lynn Reese in his loop, because I think if you still designate Andy as our city treasurer, he still has some duties and powers in there. I need to go through that with a fine-tooth comb. You absolutely must have that last sentence in 4.05. You can't toss that out with the bathwater. But removing the references to the city charter in 401, 402, 403 makes sense.
Well, again, 405 is addressing a charter officer. Is Andy a charter officer, yes or no?
No.
Okay, well, there's your problem right there. You've got a conflict.
Where does it?
405 needs to be moved.
Where does 405 say the city treasurer is a charter officer?
It's under the whole heading of charter officers.
Charter officers.
But if you remove city treasurer from 4.01, he's no longer a charter officer. It just says city treasurer. I mean, just like we've got city attorney under section 4. I mean, he's not a charter officer either, but he's still in section 4. Removing
401, originally we had planned on adding the city attorney. Charter officers under Article 4 was going to be charter officers and city attorney. So what it should actually say is Article 4, charter officers, city treasurer, and city attorney. And then you could put whatever you wanted to in these sections under Article 4. See how it's getting convoluted because there's just so many changing this one thing, but leaving bits and pieces of the city treasurer in there because of the way Article 4 is worded. You have to change it.
Yeah, we did delete referencing 4.05. We do not have we have a reserved 4.05. That was formerly the duties of the treasurer.
I think you're trying to get this last ballot question too exact, and it needs to be thought through completely. So, I mean, it's going to be debated again at the council level. So, I mean, just...
Well, my recommendation, if you would like to end this meeting, would be to strip all references to city treasurer from Article 4, and then kick the can down the proverbial road. At least this is only one item that we're really going to have to hash out. Everything else is done.
You know what, Dave? I agree with that, and I think the solution is what we had talked about, which is what you said. It was charter officers and city attorney, and we're going to have to say and city treasurer, and then we could leave that explanatory paragraph, because I do like that idea, because it does define what they're going to do. We can debate that at a council meeting, but to get this out of committee, as they say, this will get it out of committee and get it to the council. We're going to have to decide it, but there can't be you can't reference city treasurer if it's not a charter officer, or you don't spell it out as a different position up top, because there are people who are picking on this stuff. So.
Okay, to recap then, we're going to have one ballot question referring to 4.01, 02, 03, 04 to remove the term city treasurer, and we're going to leave 4.05 alone and let the council review it?
I'm sorry, Article 4, period. Article 4, remove all references to city treasurer.
I like that. That's simple.
that proposal actually takes away 4.05, so we're going to have to hash that one out then at council, but that eliminates it.
Well, that gives us something to start the council debate with in a work session.
Yep.
We have consensus on that one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All it is,
You leave the first part of that sentence in there, right? Because we've outsourced the position of city treasurer, and that's where we pick it up with Dave's suggestion, remove all references to city treasurer in Article 4.
Correct.
Yep.
Come on board.
okay, just this more housekeeping. Fred, so you're going to, we're a little bit different on the charter itself. Are you going to revise the proposed ballot question, or would you like me to take a shot at that?
I can do that.
Okay.
I'm taking notes as we go on, so I think I can take that 3-page ballot question and revise that and get it back to you. I'll I'll send that to Mike, and then I'll send it to all of you. So
Yeah, I'll send you my update there.
okay.
I'll send you
Is there a reason to even, we know what we're going to get. There's no reason to have another meeting, is that correct?
No. This can go to council from here. If I hear no objections, it'll go to council at the next council meeting.
Yeah, that's going to be May, Stan, so just so you know.
If we can have a meeting, if this coronavirus ends,
We're going to have some meeting in May. It might be telephonic, it might be emergent only, but we're going to have something in May. We postponed it 1 month. I don't want to, we'll have something, but it won't be in person. It's going to be, it might very well be telephonic.
so basically, before we conclude this meeting, everyone is in consensus that is now in this meeting that we are going to conclude it and submit what we have with the changes that Fred's going to make, along with Mike, to the next council meeting.
Yeah.
Council can accept or reject it or pass it to the next May meeting if they wish.
Yes.
Mayor, do we even need to wait until May? Can this be presented in some format, sort of like what we're doing now with a work session?
No, we don't have any work sessions. It's emergent only for the month of April. Basically, we're after speaking to Lynn today. It's possible we're going to have a special meeting, but it would only deal with issues relating to this, the disaster, not something like this. There's no reason it can't be presented though in written form. So, can be. The reason come up on our next agenda.
Are we going to have time to get this on the ballot?
Yes, because we almost have the questions now. I think the deadline was August, so I think Fred's got a pretty good draft already. So yeah, if we get this in April, if we get this in May, we're gonna, one way or the other, it's gonna pass out of committee by June, and Fred has 2 months to basically work it out with the director of election to make sure we get the perfect ballot question that they approve.
No pressure, Fred. You've got 2 months.
2 months?
We can
That's good.
We can circulate these questions to the rest of Patty can circulate these questions to the rest of the council, and if the council members have questions, they can reach out to Stan or Mike individually and get some of their questions answered up front, or even Lynn.
Correct on all of that, yes.
If that is the case, we're on consensus. I would entertain the question, or the motion rather, to close the meeting.
Well, and I would like to thank you to
We'll add
everyone.
the action item to check on the format, whether we can put in a short description or explanation along with the ballot question.
That's something to check with the director of elections, either Patty or Fred.
Yes, I have a note to call them tomorrow.
Okay, so Patty will call the supervisor of elections for that question.
Correct.
All right. Anything else?
Hey, before we adjourn, I'm going to just say, Stan, kudos as a wonderful leader here, and to everybody on this committee. I think this went really super well. This was a very enjoyable committee to work under, and I think we came up with really good reviews over here. So great job, everyone, and thanks.
Great, Dan.
Thank everyone.
Thanks, Stan.
Thank you, guys.
So I appreciate it.
So motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.